Hey, we're here at Epidemic Ales in Concord, California. We're going to talk about their American Light Lager that won a gold medal at GABF, that we have a MoreBeer kit coming out. We're also going to talk about the state of the beer industry and taste some of the amazing beers they have on tap here. Cheers.
We homebrewed for several years before deciding to open up this brewery.
Going forward, like making a lager, you have to always remember it's a very unforgiving neutral base. Finishing off the haze craze and going towards more like traditional clear beer, like lighter lagers or even just like cold IPAs.
All right, so I'm with Erin and Shawn. Erin's the owner. Shawn's the head brewer here at Epidemic. So tell us a little bit about your role here at Epidemic, your background, history, brewing, etc. Let's start with you, Erin.
So I'm one of the co-owners of Epidemic Ales, and we've been here since 2015. So we started out, my partners and I started out as home brewers. So we did a lot of MoreBeer, like got all of our equipment from MoreBeer. But we started out with my partner Holly actually had a Mr. Beer kit.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's how she started. That was the very, very beginning. Started out making a little Mr. Beer kit. And then we just kind of decided, hey, let's get some more equipment. So we went to MoreBeer, got all of our equipment there. We homebrewed for several years before deciding to open up this brewery.
Awesome.
So yeah, we kind of like put our dreams together and open up this brewery, and now we've got this amazing facility with our 10-barrel brew house and our tap room. So
I think that's cool. a dream of a lot of home brewers,
yes.
Starting a brewery. Initially, were you guys doing, because I know Shawn came on later and we'll go into your story, were you guys doing all the brewing yourselves?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so we did everything ourselves, me and my partners, the brew side, the cellaring, the tap room, we kind of did everything ourselves for a while. So, and then luckily we brought Shawn in as our head brewer.
Perfect segue. Shawn, I met you when you were at EJ Fair. Josh, a mutual friend of ours, he was the head brewer, you were the assistant at the time, right? So yep. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your history in brewing, home brewing, etc.
Fresh out of high school, was working a security job, started wanting to transition out of that. My mom pointed me to her family friends that started their own homebrew supply store out in Dublin. They actually took over Hop Tech to start teaching me about home brewing and just like making beer in general and all and other fermentations and stuff like that. Fast forward a little bit, I meet their nephew Josh, who then got me later into EJ Fair. And then I was there for about 2.5 years. And I started looking around, and that's when Epidemic popped up, kind of searching around, and I knew them from Hop Tech. They actually, it was pulling grain for Holly and getting their pilot system up and running.
Gotcha, okay. So that's how you met them, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a perfect transition. We're talking, lager at World's End. So let's jump into this. Let's start with, so you won a gold medal at GABF and a bunch of other ones. What was it like winning a gold medal and some of the other accolades that this beer has received? Just tell me a little bit about that.
Unreal.
were you there for the gold medal? Did you get to go up on stage and shake?
It was during COVID.
That's right, it was 2020.
Yeah, we won during 2020, and so I was sitting in the back on my computer watching the award ceremony with Holly, and as soon as it popped up on the screen, we just immediately jumped up, shouted, cheersed, and it felt unreal, and still to this day almost feels like that.
That's awesome. And so, was it prior to that it had already won a medal?
Yes.
Right, at the Oregon?
Yeah, the best of craft beer.
Yeah, cool. And then even since then, more medals, right?
Not for lager.
Oh, okay.
I have won other medals on other beers.
I thought it was Lagers World, then my bad on that
no.
one. Yeah.
All good. You got the 2 golds of that year.
That's awesome. what MoreBeer was doing, right, or MoreBeer Pro, we have a Pro division that sells ingredients and stuff like that. We partnered with Viking Malt. You guys, Bear Bottle, a couple other places won medals with Viking Malt. So we had what we call the legendary Viking, so you guys got a Viking helmet, some other fun stuff. That was really cool. Tell me a little bit about Viking Malt and why you're using that in the recipe and what you think it brings to it.
It was something new that I've always wanted to try. I heard a lot about it, just word through homebrew shops and people starting to use it. But right during when we were winning the first medal on lager, we were actually transitioning over to starting using Viking Malt. It's a really clean, crisp profile. I generally prefer the base malt out of it. And certain specialties. I've noticed a distinct flavor on it, a nice kind of bready, toasty character that I get, and I find that kind of across the board in all the beers that we brew with it.
And it's Viking Pilsner specifically that you're using in Lager at World's End, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I like the Pilsner. I agree. It's got nice breadiness, but it's also super clean. Really I like to even use it in IPAs and things like that. The Viking Pilsner malt, with a 50-50 split. So yeah, really enjoy that malt.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about Lager at World's End. We talked about the medals that it won, but let's jump into the concept. It's kind of a cool name, Lager at World's End. Tell me where the concept came up for this beer.
Well, it's kind of a beer that if the world is ending, why not just kick back and have a beer?
So it's like a desert island beer.
Yeah. Or desert island and everything else is sinking around you.
Yeah, gotcha, yeah.
You're just so it's kind of in the beginning we were trying to figure out our logo, and we were thinking about somebody just kicking back with a beer, which is kind of what our mascot up there is doing. It's he's got his glasses on, he's just kind of there's who knows what's going on.
The world's ending,
and he's just
zombie apocalypse.
I'm just going to drink a beer. So this is kind of our beer that we want to drink if the world is ending.
So was that one you guys were brewing, was it one of your launch or initial kind of offerings?
It was probably the first year that we started making a lager, because we realized we wanted kind of the whole spectrum of beers. So we've got, we wanted a lager, we've got amber, we've got of course IPAs, we've got stouts, now we're making sours, but we wanted to make sure that we had beer out there that everybody wanted to drink. So. And we knew we wanted to do a lager, and this one was it.
All right, Shawn, let's talk about brewing the beer and the recipe in general. So it's American light lager. There's corn in there. So what are some tips? We've got the homebrew kit, that has the recipe for it, but any tips that you have for homebrewers to make the beer, working with corn and things like that, mash temp, any recommendations?
Going forward, making a lager, you have to always remember it's a very, very unforgiving neutral base. Any flaw or hop character or anything you want in there will shine through. So when using something like an adjunct like corn, it does help with clarity on the mash end, but it will also be very present in your final product. I've heard a lot of people can be oh, I could get DMS and stuff from corn or just Pilsner malt, and usually combat that with a longer boil.
It's a 90-minute boil. Would you recommend over a 60?
Yeah, so we do a 90-minute boil of almost all our beers, but specifically it started out with lager, just to make sure there wasn't any actual unwanted flavors in there.
Cooling the wort quickly, I think, helps with the DMS too, right?
Yeah.
Another tip.
Yeah, so if you have a way of quickly cooling down your wort fast, and then in the fermentation end, keeping that wort cool, whether that be a jacketed fermenter for MoreBeer or a ice packs with a towel wrapped around it,
Yeah, for a lager. I remember when I first started homebrewing, I'm like, oh, I loved lagers at the time. I'm like, I'm gonna make lager. I'm like, oh wow, I don't have the facilities, the temperature control to do this. So started with ales, obviously. So let's talk about the fermentation. So what's your ideal temp for a lager? Starting temp, like pitching temp, starting temp, holding, ramps. Let's talk about the fermentation side of that.
Yeah, I like to start cooler on with the lager yeast.
So what is that, like 50, 52?
50 degrees.
50 degrees Fahrenheit.
So yeah, we start at 50. After about day 2, we'll start ramping it up. I bring it up a degree a day, up to 55, let it finish out there. Never really gotten any like diacetyl or anything off of that, but
do you do a D-rest, like let it just get up to 60 or whatever it can, depending on ambient, or?
No, I stop it at 55 and hold it there.
Oh, okay.
So that is its D-rest, if anything.
And then from there, you'll drop it back down for conditioning. And
yeah, so I'll drop it down to 40 to pull the yeast off. If we're doing something like a cold IPA or IPL, that will also be its dry hop edition. And then cold crash down to 32 for conditioning.
What yeast strain do you guys recommend for this? I know we offer tons of lager strains, so there's tons of options, but what is your ideal yeast for this?
Well, our house strain, German lager, White Labs 830.
Oh, okay, White Labs.
Yeah. I've never found a flaw with it.
Yeah.
But I've heard of like people using like Ondex yeast and
Ondex, I like
American lager like could go really well. It's really all about the temperature control.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier of like, there's really nothing to hide behind on a beer like this, like, right? When I go to a breweries, I always try like a lager, a blonde. I'm like, let me see, because like hoppy beers, let's see, but there's really, so like your process and your temperature control is super important. Let's talk about the hops now. So noble hops, right? Or what are the hops in here? Talk to me about the hops and how you're adding them. It's in the recipe kit, so they've got it all, but let's hear from the man himself.
So we start out with just a light bittering charge of Magnum hops, just to kind of give it a little bite, and then end with one of my favorites for like a lager, Saaz.
Saaz, yes, love Saaz.
So Czech Saaz, like I just love that Saaz bite in like a good Pilsner. So, but it also works as just like a very neutral, light alpha addition for like an American lager.
What is the bitterness on this? How many IBUs?
I want to say 12, something like that. It's very low, yeah.
Any Whirlpool or aroma addition, or it's a Saaz is all the aroma?
Saaz is all late kettle. Do a 15-minute addition with that.
Okay.
Bring in a little bit of like that flavor and aroma, but keep it nice and subtle. Like I was saying, anything in a neutral base such as this, it will shine through, so I don't want to overpower it. And
what do you target? What's the finishing gravity on this? It's nice and dry, so.
So finishing gravity usually is about 2 Plato. We get down to as far as like 1.7 to even drying out at 1.5. But we find it finishing normally around 2.
Okay. So big healthy pitch, right, to get that attenuation. Keys to lager, right, is like 4 times the yeast you'd normally pitch for like an ale, right? Is that kind of what you're seeing there or doing?
Yeah, I've found the lager yeast loves to be overpitched.
Yeah.
Anything to help with combat the cold as well as just like get a speedy fermentation out of it. When we usually like buy a fresh pitch or something, that's when it starts taking forever because you have to build up and like grow tolerance to everything. And
on a fresh pitch, would this be the first batch you would do, or is there even something maybe lower gravity that this is pretty low gravity, so this is kind of first gen?
Yep, this easy 4.5%, so just always usually my go-to starter with it.
Awesome. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the state of the beer industry. Recently we got a bunch of brewers together. We started talking, some of the people, ready to drink, seltzers, slushies, there's all kinds of, hazy IPAs, milkshake IPAs, all kind of came up in that conversation. So I want to, as we go to breweries this year, I want to talk about the state of the beer industry and what you guys are seeing. I see you guys made your first seltzer recently. So how's that selling? Just talk to me a little bit about the state of the beer industry.
Well, we did. So we came out with the seltzer during COVID, during the shutdown.
Okay.
And it was super popular. That was kind of the time when seltzers were really peaking. And I think we made a small batch of it, and it sold out immediately. That's when we were just selling
people
crowlers.
Are loving the seltzer.
Yeah, people are loving the seltzer. And so we kept it going. We actually just recently brought it back a few months ago, I think. So we started with watermelon, now we have strawberry. But people like an option that's not a beer, that's gluten-free.
Gluten-free, yeah.
We have a lot of people that come in the tap room and say, I don't drink beer. Do you have wine? Do you have cider? So we offer it's called Cabana Boy hard seltzer. So we offer that. We also offer a non-alcoholic
Kombucha.
kombucha.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. That we don't brew here, but it is another option for people that maybe like a cider or something like that. So, but yeah, seltzer's still popular. People are still drinking it. So
you're seeing a lot of sales and people asking for that when they're in the tap room as well. Mm-hmm. Shawn, so I know as brewer, we hang out outside of doing this and with other brewers, and we chat about this kind of stuff. And I've always been of the mind of I want to learn about this new stuff, even though, it might not be, so it's cool, let's get into it. And I want to learn how to make a good version of it. But what's your take on you obviously made a seltzer, so you're kind of into it. What's your feeling on that, and beer, and, state of the beer industry?
It was never, I guess, being just a beer brewer was never ideal to make something other than beer. But I do find the appreciation of just still getting to create and the figuring out the process of it. That's been the trickiest part, because you'd think it would just be as simple as sugar, water, alcohol, got sparkling water, but no, it's a lot to do with okay, is the flavor right? Or what the is there enough nutrients for the yeast? Is there is the clarity good?
I think that's where a lot of, I'll try a seltzer. I'm not into it, but I'll try them at places, and you'll start to get sulfur and these clear fermentation things. So there's no mash, there's no grains, right? So there is no nutrients. It's just
right.
Cane sugar essentially. So it's really, I think people making seltzers, you could learn a lot from mead making. It's very similar to mead making, where these nutrient schedule is super important.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because with mead as being a honey wine, seltzer's pretty much a sugar wine. Mm-hmm. There's no backbone to it to support the yeast. So you have to add everything to it. Kind of working with RO water.
Mm. Oh yeah, you got to build up the TDSs to because you can't just do straight RO for totally.
Exactly. We even do beer slushies too, so that's a big new trend.
And how do those do well for you? You guys
during the summer they're just nonstop.
Sure. It's a little hotter.
Still, people in the middle of winter drink them, but
but
it's been a great option. I wasn't sure when we first got it. It's because it was kind of a new thing, and not a lot of breweries had it, but it's been great. People love that option because we usually use lager as our base. So generally it's just the beer. We add a little bit of either simple syrup or just a flavored syrup.
Yeah, snow cone flavoring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all it is, and it comes out as a slushie, and people love it because it actually does not taste like beer. So that's another option for people that are, not big beer drinkers.
My favorite is the kettle sour in them.
Yeah.
Gives it that little tart bite.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I've I've had a slushie before, and it was a kettle sour, and it was pretty darn enjoyable. I might have felt, afterwards like I'm as a beer purist.
But you're drinking a beer.
Yeah.
It's beer in a slushie.
Still has alcohol.
There was nothing wrong with it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we all had one in the group that I was with, and I was like, pretty good. I totally get it.
Yeah, that's definitely a new trend that I don't think is going anywhere because people do like that option, especially when it's really hot out. And in Concord, it gets very hot, so it's definitely a good option.
Out here. So speaking of trends, that's a great segue. So what do you guys think is? So we talked about slushies. You mentioned cold IPAs earlier, right? That was like a big trend. What is, and you're probably going to answer, if I knew it, I would do it, but what do you think is the next big trend in beer or next beer style?
Finishing off the haze craze and going towards more like traditional clear beer, like lighter lagers or even just like cold IPAs.
Yes, they are kind of that more lighter, drier,
Yeah. So probably coming off of that, like, I don't think we'll ever bring back the brewed IPA, but I feel like it's kind of heading that direction right now.
Drier, yeah. Shout out to Kim, who invented the brewed IPA, which, I love that style, and I think it kind of drove us towards that drier, lighter, where we're going. And so, like, lagers, I definitely see, we hear people talk, I feel like we talk about it, like, every year, like, the lagers are going to revolutionize, and I think as, like, brewers, that tends to be our favorite beer to drink, right? It's like you're shifty. It's usually a lager, right?
Exactly.
So hopefully that is the trend. What do you think, Erin?
Yeah, I mean, I do like the cold IPA option. We have one that we brewed with Morgan Territory. That's my go-to now. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know about what's coming next. I don't know if anybody does, but I think the cold IPA is something that came out sort of recently, and I think that one's going to continue. So, but yeah, as to what's coming up next, we shall see.
Yeah, as I would say, about a year ago this time, we were doing hazies and milkshakes and all the fruity beers, trying to get more sours out. But now it's like, as of this year, Beer Week, we're like, let's do West Coast Pale, cold IPA. Like, that's just the trend.
I think that is kind of the shift right now for sure. Yeah. I'm interested to see where it goes and see what the next style is. When you guys figure it out, let me know.
Definitely.
We'll let you know.
All right, Erin, Shawn, thank you guys for having me here. It's been amazing. This beer is delicious. Let's go have some more beers at the bar.
Sounds great.
All right, we're here at Epidemic. We're at the bar. Shawn, take me down to Flavor Town. Let's go through this lineup. What do you want me to start with?
Well, we're talking about changing the industry. Let's start with the seltzer.
All right, so it's called Cabana Boy. It's a seltzer, and there's flavoring as well in here?
Yeah, so we do a strawberry flavoring on this one. We also have a watermelon version.
That's nice. It's got like a creamy strawberry, almost like a cream soda kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's delicious. I could see why people are into the hard seltzer thing. That's great, yeah.
Next, we got our Affliction Amber, one of our original recipes.
Homebrew recipe.
We keep it a little more like
so it's got some hops in there.
Yeah, traditional like West Coast.
Which I love, yeah.
A little hoppy.
Yeah, I love it's got the malt, but there's like the pininess. What are the hops in this one?
Cascade and a little bit of Zythos.
Oh, Zythos, awesome. Yeah, this is delicious.
Next is Danksy, our cold IPA.
Ah, Danksy.
It's a collab with Morgan Territory this year for SF Beer Week.
It's got a nice like melon character to it, kind of like fruity.
Yeah, Mosaic, Triumph, and an experimental hop.
That's really nice. Yeah, super dry, got that lager character, fruity aroma, which I love. Nice, good hop flavor in there too. This is delicious. Love the cold IPA, love the Danksy. I assume that's Banksy, kind of graffiti reference. Yep. I love that. That's right in my Venn diagram.
All right, then following up on another West Coast IPA, our staple Zombrew. This is our house beer everybody knows about. Currently can find now in Safeways too. We do like very light base malt of just like Pilsner, a little bit of dextro pills for body, torrefied wheat, body head retention, and then some Warrior for bittering, Centennial Simcoe throughout boil, and then Citra Mosaic Simcoe dry hop.
Definitely getting the Simcoe. Yeah, that nice dank. Oh man, that's
That's
delicious.
another one that was one of our original recipes from way back when. And we knew we wanted a Zom brew.
Oh, okay.
So we actually trademarked it because we're like, this is a really cool name.
Oh, you got a trademark on that?
Yeah.
Awesome, yeah.
This is our Defense Against the Dark Oats. It's an oatmeal milk stout. I actually worked for about 2 years on this recipe before I got to brew it.
So were you homebrewing it during that time to kind of hone it, or what was?
Not really, actually.
Yeah.
Just kind of
mulling it
formulating
over,
it,
yeah.
thinking about it. I had an idea of what I'd like to achieve with it.
Love the, yeah, it's like velvety, roasty. It's got, you know, like that almost like, I want to say like coffee, but yeah, that kind of like roasty coffee, you know, kind of flavor to it. And it's super velvety. That's delicious.
We use exclusive Viking cookie malt in that
Oh,
one.
it's the cookie malt. I
Yeah.
love that cookie malt. Yeah, that's awesome.
On nitro as well. So.
On nitro as well.
Yeah.
Gotta have it
Nitro's
on
so
nitro.
good.
All right, so this last one, this doesn't look like a beer. Tell me about what I'm about to have here.
Well, for your non-beer drinkers, we got our slushie, created with our kettle sour. So it's our cherry kettle sour in slushie form.
All right, let me drink it through the straw here.
So just added, so it's basically our cherry kettle sour. We just add a little bit of simple syrup to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I get the
back
back
sweeten.
sweeten.
That's it.
And it really plays with that tartness. I mean, this is, I just picture myself freaking like in a beach in the Bahamas, right? Like relaxing. This is delicious. Like you said, it almost doesn't taste like alcohol or anything. I mean, this is like, you know, sweet and delicious. And there's nothing wrong with this. This is amazing. I enjoy it. Yeah, this is
Now you see why they're so
tasty.
popular.
I see why people are into this. This is gonna be on video, me drinking a slushie. Uh-oh.
Out of a straw.
Out of a straw too. Should I put my pinky out as well? This is good. I'm not mad at this. I love it.